SFL, Innovative Logistics Experts.
Okay. Hi, David. Today it's such a pleasure to have David Leifsson, a supply chain consultant, joining me. He has some great supply chain mapping analysis and how to get going in the industry. With all the challenges that we have been facing recently, especially in the last 24 months, except for the pandemic, we've seen now the Ukraine and Russia war, we've seen the Ever Given ship with the port condition. David Leifsson today is just going to give us some insights on his expertise on the industry and how he can assist some of the logistics companies out there. David, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in the industry? How can you help the logistics industry right now?
Thank you for this interview. Nice to have this chance to speak to you. Basically, I'm from Iceland, been living in Sweden for about 15 or 16 years. I have been in the logistics, mostly European logistics, for close to 20 years now, and in road transport and warehousing, the different position on each side of the table. And now more in the recent years, I've been working as a consultant for companies to help them, often with interim or short-time assignment, to help them improve their logistics, supply chain or transportation. And I've also been very interested in digital logistics and what's happening there, focusing very much on supply chain mapping and thinking of supply chain risk, which is getting higher and higher on the table today in companies. And that's what I'm trying to tell people about, is that you need to think about how your supply chain is visually, and also focusing on how you can avoid disruption if possible.
Can you give me some insight on supply chain mapping? What is supply chain mapping and how important it is to a business? And is it for all types of business, or is it just for the logistics industry?
So supply chain mapping is basically for everyone, or all companies, more for some than others. And you can do this in a different ways. Of course, you can do it with Google Maps and do it manually. Takes the time, or you can use tools I'm using to have the supply chain mapping, and that's basically to create the visualization of where your suppliers are in the world. And I mean, let's say what's happening in the Ukraine, and if you have suppliers on that region then, or in that zone, then you could react to that risk by doing something else to move to another supplier or so on. So it's basically to map it out, but also to keep it alive. So it's not just something that you do one time, you should update it. And if you do it like that, then you need to have a tool that can help you because you don't have time to waste doing this over and over again. And that's also when you think about, I mean, you have your suppliers, but their suppliers have their suppliers. So you have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, like in some business. And for example, now and what's happening in Ukraine, they are having something related to semiconductor, gas for semiconductor. They are a huge exporter of that, and that could have potential impact on the automotive industry in the future. So it's to understand where your suppliers are, but also to understand where the sub-suppliers are, because what's happening not only in Ukraine, but with the freight price from China, you need to understand where your origin of goods is coming from. So it's a risk management to think about things like dual sourcing. If you have too much in a problem region, then you might think of trying to move it to another region that, even if it has a higher price, but you would secure the deliveries at least.
For companies out there, what would you suggest would be the first step to implementing a supply chain mapping?
Yeah, I think how I've been doing it, I think you can do it on a fairly basic position, because you need the postcode and you need the country and you need the city. And of course, if there is some quantities related, so to do it, it's not so complex. You don't have to have so much experience if you have the correct tool or correct ways of doing it.
Do you believe that a good ERP can assist in supply chain mapping?
Yeah, you make sure that you have your relevant information in the ERP of suppliers. So the information that I'm using is basically from ERP systems. Of course, You need to be sure if it's an active supplier or not, but the information is basically in the company's ERP system. So I think almost all companies can do this. They have it on hand, but it's just a matter of how to do it and to get in a kind of a process of updating it. Of course, you can do it on your own. Then you have your learning curve is a little bit longer, or you could use like consultant or education package, which I'm often providing, so that people can do it on their own. Because in the long run, it's better that the company is doing it by themselves. I believe in education, and you can fast track it by using a consultant like me or someone else, to do it.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in digitalization of logistics, and from my experience, many companies are missing often. Here in Sweden, they're like horses with a blindfold when they're running, so they don't see what's coming in, what's going out. But that is something that of a resistance in the business today, is because we used to do it in the old way, and then to do something new could be like something scary. And some people, of course, think that they will losing the work or something like that. But it will mostly, of course, help you in doing things smarter and easier and faster.
Maybe just tell us where we can reach you if anybody needs to understand more about supply chain mapping.
Is on my LinkedIn profile, David Leifsson. There you will also find my email. But I think LinkedIn with my name, David Leifsson, is the best way of communicating with me. Again, I'm happy to answer anything, if there are some questions or ideas.
David, such a pleasure to have you join me today and go through supply chain mapping, the challenges in the industry. And I'm so happy to hear you say how digitalization is so important in the logistics industry. With the last 24 months, we've seen it escalate. What would have been done in 5 years has now been done in 24 months. We can only see it improve even more. We've also realized how supply chain mapping will actually help many clients out there to stay ahead of the game and to ensure that their business risks are identified beforehand and analyzed, and better decision making can be made. So I really appreciate your time that you've taken to explain all of this to me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for watching. To stay ahead of the game and for more content like this, don't forget to hit that bell icon and click to subscribe to our channel. SFL Software Logic is dedicated to supporting and elevating logistics businesses through technology. Powered by CargoWise One, our ecosystem comprises of consultancy, implementations, and support. Our mission at SFL, we believe in constantly challenging how things are done to create opportunities for us and our partners, and ultimately collaborate with us to stay ahead of the game. SFL Innovative Logistics Experts.